Years ago, a leading climate scientist stood in front of the United Nations General Assembly and told them the fate of this planet hangs in the balance. If world leaders did nothing, they would see increasingly severe and frequent natural disasters, rising global temperatures leading to melting ice caps will create increasing sea levels and displacement of millions of people. She said, this will cause widespread ecological and societal disruption, food and water shortages, and economic instability. At the end of this harrowing presentation, one of the leaders stood up and addressed the room. He asked the scientist, "By what authority are you saying these things? And who gave you this authority?" The scientist stood motionless and steely-eyed. And taking a sharp intake of breath, she said, "I will also ask you one question. If you tell me the answer, I will also tell you by what authority I say these things." The room fell silent. Is it your responsibility to guard your country's people, or is it their job to do it themselves? And the leaders argued among one another. If we say it's our responsibility, we'll be held accountable for everything terrible that happens. But if we say it's the people's job, then it will seem like we don't care. Some version of this made-up story has played out in government halls around the world. Having received world-changing news about climate, leaders have had to figure out what to do, if anything at all. It's not unlike today's gospel. Jesus entered the temple and made the chief priests and the elders of the people uncomfortable. What he said upset tradition and years of accepted understanding. And it challenged control. Folk found themselves backed into a corner. Climate change has led to a feeling of dread. All of humanity is faced with tremendous pressure. Fix the world, or soon there'll be no world to fix. It's overwhelming. Behavioral scientists talk about climate anxiety. And it causes some people to lose hope and to just disengage. And for a variety of reasons, it causes others to deny that there's a climate emergency at all. And some become hostile. New information rejection. It's often caused by an anxiety about change or overwhelm. And I don't say this glibly, as if I'm better than those other people who are afraid. All of us react in varying ways out of fear. Change is always accompanied by emotional response. And it's important to recognize that. Dismissing our feelings as stupid or irrational isn't helpful, nor is making fun of others whose processes or experience of the world isn't as ours. We must own how we feel and try to understand and value how others feel too. But it's more than that. We must recognize that people's motivations are often deeply influenced by their identity. It's crucial to understand that the chief priests and the elders of the people, they weren't simply just being stubborn. They belonged to a community, and that community was of immense significance to them. It defined who they were. And when their community's prevailing views were contradicted, they instinctively went into defense mode. Our beliefs as humans are rooted in social and psychological factors, not solely driven by objective data. Consider for a moment why you come to church. Is it due to scientific evidence? Or is it influenced by your sense of faith and belonging? To navigate our differences and engage in constructive dialogue, we must acknowledge the underlying dynamics to our decision-making processes. Only then can we bridge the gap and share information and ideas across diverse communities. Understanding this aspect of human behavior, understanding it compassionately and without judgment, will help us address our shared challenges. Now let me be clear. What I'm saying should not be misconstrued as condoning climate change denial or delay. Just as Jesus spoke clearly, I wish to do the same. The climate emergency demands an urgent and substantial response. Action is required at this very moment. Action that compels those with power to reevaluate their stances and reshape business practices. We must do a U-turn. Like the first son in today's gospel, we must change our minds. But the only way that is going to happen is if we feel it's okay to do so. Listen, people will only change their minds if they feel they can.